Conquest of the galaxy by the Galactic Empire's elite was nothing new. Before they were even known, the assassin squad had a reputation that whispered tales of planets brought to their knees without a single in the middle of night. Entire governments fell in fear. And figures vanished from the Empire's assassins were dispatched to the planet Zephan only when failure was not an option, since they were like ghosts. Their most recent, no one had anticipated the mission, and no one survived to tell the tale. Story. The assassins moved with a precision that revealed years of practice refined by innumerable effective activities, but the squad was given a much more risky assignment. Earth, the Galactic Empire considered Earth to be a mere dot in the immensity of the cosmos. But the Empire had made in the eyes of the Empire, Earth was technologically backward and had made the error of underestimating its potential. Threat was minimal, but there was something on Earth that humans couldn't quantify. The Emperor was determined to remove Earth's leaders. A complete sweep was required. Before anyone could detect their presence, the assassins would enter, kill the targets, and depart. A task they had completed 100 times previously, and arrangements were already in place as the Empire's flagship approached Earth's orbit. The governments had discovered the impending threat and were aware of the movement on Earth concealed in the shadows. Although their odds were poor, one thing stood in their way: an ancient secret. Earth's rulers did not resort to advanced technology or weapons as time went on. The assassins had something much more powerful and ancient to stop them. Despite the Galactic Empire's reliance on technology and numerical superiority, ninjas represented something. The ninjas were distinct, founded on centuries of custom, and disciplined in ways that the Empire could never comprehend. Embodied the height of subtlety and lethality. Patience, not technology or ostentatious demonstrations of might, was key. The call came in the middle of the night, and the ninja demonstrated their prowess and mastery of the shadows. Concealed from the world's view, accepted the assignment in silence, and there was no need, for they had a clear task, and the assassin squad couldn't possibly see them approaching. On the edge of a far-off place, the ninjas started getting ready. They lacked any armor and advanced weaponry, no spacecraft, only their silence, their trusted knives, and the goal of the ninjas' centuries-old talent was not glory or acknowledgement. That it was just a duty that had been handed down through the years in the Galactic Empires. The Empire's flagship hovered above, disguised from the assassins, who were stepping into a trap from which they would never be able to escape. The assassin squad thought that Earth's crude radars were ready to drop. They have the technology to support their untouchability in numerous ways. They were formidable because to their neural upgrades, tracking gadgets, and camouflage technologies. However, these technical advantages were distractions and flaws that didn't matter to the ninja, that the ninjas would take advantage of by sneaking into the Empire's ship. Every move was deliberate, and the quiet within was deafening. With their keen senses, the ninjas were able to evade discovery in every situation the Empire had. The floor, every time the air changed, the ninja were aware of it before it occurred. In a world of sounds and diversions, the ninja had the ability to silence the galaxy. The Empire's assassins, who were positioned throughout the ship, started to sense something that wasn't yet dread, but an alteration in the atmosphere. They were taught to recognize dangers, but this was distinct. Ninjas moved silently, watching for the ideal moment, as though the shadows themselves were watching them. One by one, the assassins collapsed. They had no idea what had hit them. There were no flashing lights or warnings, and the ninjas were clean and effective in every death. The assassin's centuries-old technology was no match for the ninjas' blades, which moved quicker than the human eye could see. It was a hunt rather than a combat using outdated methods, and the assassin squad leader was an expert in as the squad members stopped responding and communicating. Innumerable missions started to suspect something was amiss. Channels went quiet, but he was unable to identify the ninja. Despite his enhanced abilities, it seemed as though the shadows. It was too late when the leader gave the order for his remaining soldiers to disperse and sweep the ship once they had come to life. The assassins believed they would attack, but the ninja had already predicted their tactics, had the upper hand, and the ninja was 2 steps ahead of them. Diversionary traps were set, developed. The ninja made the most of their surroundings, and they didn't require sophisticated technology or cruel. They only required patience. As the assassin squad's numbers decreased, the leader became desperate when he realized he was the last one remaining. Activated all of the ship's protection systems, and even with the scanners operating at maximum capacity, the ninjas were not visible. Was simultaneously nowhere and everywhere until the leader finally stood up, demonstrating that he was not a coward. He was prepared for death and would not perish easily, But even as he prepared his weapons, he was aware that it was fast and merciless. The battle was futile when the ninja emerged from the shadows. The assassin leader's body collapsed to the ground before it started, and the ninjas briefly stood over him. The kill brought no joy or sense of accomplishment. It was just the ninja turned and vanished into the darkness and silence, leaving back on Earth. The galactic empires were once afraid of the ruins assassin squad. There would never be a complete account of what transpired on the Galactic Empire's flagship. If they acknowledged their defeat, Earth's leaders would say nothing. But those in charge understood that a warrior whose abilities had been far more ancient than technology had been essential to their survival. Been transmitted from generation to generation, concealed in the shadows, awaiting the most critical moment. When Earth sent a ninja, the Galactic Empire sent their best, but the ninja didn't after the mission was approved. There was no more time or reason for deliberation. The briefing had been unambiguous: infiltrate the Empire's spacecraft and destroy it. The ninja and stop the downfall of Earth's rulers, but for the assassin squad the goal of the operation was precision in finishing the job, not the larger politics or the planet's destiny. Mission that had been assigned to them, they had spent their entire lives training for this, and now it was time to deliver the Galactic Empire, which had advanced beyond Earth's comprehension. Their dependence on technology, however, was a flaw because they felt their superior systems made them invincible. The ninja had an advantage the Empire was unable to foresee, yet no one could enter their ranks undetected. Utter mastery of stealth that transcended technology. Earth's rulers had prudently picked a fighter whose, as the ninja neared the ship, the preparations were thorough, as their skills had been honed over generations of practice. Every action is planned and designed to achieve perfect infiltration. Wasn't only about slipping past barriers, it was also about blending in so well that it was invisible. Galactic assassins relied on their technology to detect them in a setting that even the most sophisticated scanners couldn't. On the other side, the ninja used their ability to map their surroundings and identify threats. The ninja entered the spacecraft with ease and moved like a shadow thanks to instinct, which no machine could duplicate. Avoiding detection by guards and sensors on obstacles and leaving no trace were no needless motions or acts, and everything was completed with the ship's passageways were antiseptic and chilly. And every breath was carefully regulated. Although there was a lot of machinery going on, the ninja saw it as just another setting to maneuver through. Inside the ship, the assassins were not aware that the two most deadly weapons were silence and patience. They were doomed because they were overconfident and thought that anyone who attempted to the ninja was already inside, observing, but the ship would be noticed well before they could even approach. The assassins were waiting, unaware of what was about to happen, and the ninja did not hurry there. There was no need for hurried action. Each step was calculated and planned out beforehand. The assassin never knew what hit them, and the ninja's blade struck with precision, ending the kill in silence. Target's life in a moment, and the body was left where it fell silently. Unnoticed by the other members of the team, this wasn't about panicking or causing mayhem. It was about efficiency, removing the threat with the least amount of work and having the greatest possible impact as the ninja moved. As the ship eliminated one assassin after another, the tension increased. Though they were unable to identify the source of their text, the surviving assassins began to suspect something was amiss. Indicated no unusual activity. No alarms were set off, and no indications of an intruder, yet their squad members were soon after they vanished. They sensed they were being pursued. Yet even as they became, when the ninja realized the danger, it was too late. They had already prepared their next move and anticipated their reactions. Although the assassins were excellent in their maneuvers, they depended too much on their devices. They didn't comprehend the art of actual stealth, which is how to move without being noticed, on their technology. The nin took use of this, continuously taking advantage of the assassin's flaws, one by one. Ninjas swift and silent never stayed together after assassins died. Place for too long, always shifting and adjusting to the ever-changing surroundings. The ninja took control of every move as the ship's hallways turned into a labyrinth of traps. Every exit left the assassins with nowhere to go and no means of escaping the fate that waited for them in the ship's silence. It wasn't personal. There was no personal gain in the ninja's meticulous demolition of the assassin squad. This was just the objective, a duty that needed to be accomplished. There was no animosity or anger. The ninja didn't waste time on pointless feelings or thoughts. Instead, they were intent on achieving their objective. The remaining members of the group were becoming increasingly desperate in order to make sure the assassins never reached Earth, although their communications became frenzied. They attempted to reorganize in order to discover a means of overcoming the ninja was constantly 2 steps ahead of them, so they were already outmatched. Predicting their moves before they were executed, the assassins had never encountered a foe like this before. Didn't follow the same rules and functioned outside of their comprehension. It wasn't long until only a few assassins remained in the squad after the majority had been destroyed by ninja. The ninja's ability to blend in with their surroundings allowed them to discover the hunter, even though they were aware that they were being pursued. Despite many inspections, their technology was unable to stop the shadows from moving undetected. They fled, and despite the numerous traps they prepared, the ninja managed to stay hidden with the group almost decimated. The ninja realized that this was the last step and the last obstacle before facing the leader. The leader was seasoned and had fought in numerous conflicts between them and the mission's completion, yet even he couldn't get away from the ninja. The battle would be quick but conclusive. And the ninja had already won. The ninjas advanced in silence while the leader was unaware of the battle. They prepared for the last murder inside the ship, understanding that their success would determine the survival of Earth. This was what, since they had prepared for their innate purpose, the assassin squad had never been able to defeat the assassins, decreased to a small few, and they were now tense from the quiet that had before comfort was suddenly their enemy. They knew something was wrong, because every shadow flickered and every creak in the ship seemed dangerous. Was pursuing them, but they were unaware of how sophisticated their technology was. Looked ineffective, because there were now no obvious symptoms or clues of an invader. As their numbers decreased, the ninjas who were still concealed inside the ship watched the mayhem play out. Was their edge, which was based on confusion and fear. The assassins were elite, trained to handle any known danger, but the ninja were beyond their comprehension, and the more they feared, the simpler it was for them to. However, their dependence on technology had prevented them from seeing the truth of their situation. The ninja was an expert at having the patience to wait for the ideal opportunity to present itself. They did so. Was always by precision's side, preventing any chance of reprisal. One assassin, more desperate than the others, used every instrument at their disposal to try to put up a trap, but the ninja was always ahead. Of them was expected, and each move they made was thwarted with a trick. When a warrior could move without being noticed or heard, assassins' advanced weapons were useless. The ninja wasn't. They were just avoiding notice and completely removing themselves from the scene. There was no trace left for the assassins. It seemed as though the shadows themselves were assaulting while the other killers attempted to reorganize, and the ninja kept attacking from the unexpected direction. They moved quickly and fluidly, wasting little effort in each calculated murder. It was exact, with little margin for error, and lacked any grandeur or spectacular display. The assassin squad leader's job was to complete, and the ninja had no interest in making a statement. The last to acknowledge the severity of the crisis, they had always relied on their team, till they trusted their abilities and technology to finish the task, but now they were by themselves. The remainder of the crew vanished without any prior notice, and the ship was strangely silent, the kind of silence that only came following a horrific event. The leader sought to focus by calming their thoughts, because they knew they were next on locating the enemy, but all efforts to locate the ninjas were unsuccessful. The ship's sensors, which are intended to identify even the smallest life form, revealed nothing, appeared to be non-existent, but the leader was aware that the ninja were present. The leader, who had fought several wars and faced many challenges, was watching and waiting for the proper moment. Distinct, this wasn't a battle with a known foe, but rather a game of survive, and as the leader was loosing, the ninja who were still concealed sensed the leader was tense, and their actions revealed their fear. This was the last phase of the ninja understood that the task needed to be executed with the same degree of accuracy as the others. There was no space for errors, leaving no room for negligence. The leader was competent. But they were relying on advanced technology to win a conflict they couldn't win, and their sense of dominance was their downfall. Peter had no backup and no one to rely on after the rest of the team left. They did everything they could, including scanning the ship and setting traps, planning an ambush, but it didn't matter because the ninja had already made up their minds. How this would turn out, the leader was just postponing the inevitable at every turn. In the darkness of the ship, the ninja moved, and the time they spent attempting to locate them was one more second closer to their defeat. Silently, never being seen, there was no hurry, no need to push even though the leader was unaware of it. At the time of the last showdown, ninja training had prepared them for this particular situation in order to destroy the enemy without ever being seen and finish the task with little work. The leader's abilities and experience were identical. Like the rest of the squad, they would fall from the others as the leader made one last effort to locate the ninja sensed a change in the atmosphere, but it was slight and nearly undetectable, sufficient to give them a shiver, and they realized in that instant that the leader had no time to do anything because the ninja had already attacked. In a few seconds, the ship was completed and humming with activity. The assassin squad, which the galaxy once feared, is now silent. Destroyed the ninjas that were still standing in the aftermath, didn't linger, and there was no need to celebrate the mission's accomplishment as an excuse to stay. The ninja proceeded through the ship with the same silence they had used to eradicate. Thus Earth was secure for the time being. The accomplishment of the assassins was not celebrated or acknowledged. Completed. But it wasn't required. This was the life they had selected. The ninja didn't require acknowledgement because the goal was all that mattered, and they were taught to travel the road. The ninjas left no trace of their departure from the galactic cruiser. Empire's superior technology would be unable to provide any answers when its elite squad vanished without warning. Earth had dispatched its best warriors, but a single one had outmatched the Empire's strength and resources. And it had been sufficient the ninja didn't turn around since there was no reason to. The mission was accomplished with the accuracy and expertise that had been handed down through the years. The leaders of Earth would only ever be aware of the magnitude of the protection that had been provided for them. The danger posed by the assassins had been eliminated, and that was sufficient for the ninja to operate in the shadows. Vanished prepared for whatever mission lay ahead, demonstrating that even in a cosmos governed by the Galactic Empire had discovered the hard way that there was still space for the old methods despite the advancements in technology and power. Approach, and the ninja would make sure that Earth was safe no matter what. The leader of the assassins then realized that they had been prepared for every eventuality and that it was only a question of time. Their squad was completely destroyed without a trace, thus they were unable to prepare for this. No warnings or sirens had been set off, and the assassins had always prided themselves on being sly and able to attack before their adversaries even realized they were there. But now the leader attempted to steady their breathing, but the air seemed heavy and thick, and every instinct shouted at them. The ship was eerily quiet, with the typical hum of machinery, but they could not see the adversary, even though they knew it was close. It seemed remote and muted, as if they had been forced to rely on instinct, which they hadn't required in years due to technology. Had always led them, but now it was pointless, because the adversary had ensured that the leader went over their alternatives, but none of them seemed to provide any genuine optimism, despite the fact that they had relied on every defensive. Had failed their team, and one by one, the finest of the best had been removed. The assailant was a ghost, a phantom that glided through their ship as if it owned the space, and they hadn't even seen it. Though they knew they would eventually have to confront the enemy, leaders' hands were clenched over their weapons. They waited for what seemed like an eternity, unable to determine who might possibly be able to do this. The Galactic Empire had subjugated innumerable worlds, and armies had destroyed entire civilizations. They had never faced a threat such as this one. Earth was considered a backwater planet that was unimportant, and even though the leader's mind was racing, they were losing against an enemy they couldn't even see in the big picture. Going back to the briefing, the goal had been straightforward: destroy Earth's leadership and prepare the planet for the Empire. Although it was meant to appear ordinary, someone on Earth had discovered what was to stop them. Someone sent this creature, and Pride, the leader, was hurt. Nevertheless, they were so afraid that they wouldn't even acknowledge to themselves that the enemy was playing a game. The leader was beginning, but he didn't realize that it wasn't about technology or even physical power. For whoever was out there to understand that this was something older, something primal, they used patience, ingenuity, and most importantly, they weren't depending on overwhelming firepower or flashy technology. Terror was a terror the leader had never experienced before. They faced down some of the most terrifying animals in the galaxy, participated in conflicts that destroyed entire planets, but this one was unique. The enemy was present everywhere. It wasn't a battlefield where they could observe them and plot their next move. And nowhere at the same time, and then right before the leader was about to launch a final, desperate defense. They sensed a change in the atmosphere, a presence that was almost noticeable but unmistakably. The ninja was present, and the leader's body clenched all of its muscles. The enemy was out of sight, but they knew it was nearby, so they lifted their though. They knew in their hearts that it wouldn't matter. They had a weapon ready to fire at the first sign of movement. The ninja, a master of the unseen, was able to navigate across the ship with accuracy and victory. Although the leader had previously encountered warriors, they had never encountered something similar. The leaders' biggest advantage had been their technology, which they used to oppose an enemy who didn't follow the rules of combat. However, it was now pointless because the opposition was employing something more riskier: the skill of striking from the shadows while remaining invisible. As the leader looked around the vacant, they tried to guess where the attack would come from, but it was impossible as their mind was racing with potential outcomes. The ninjas' talent and unpredictability made the leader's training and expertise seem pointless. The face of this invisible power, and suddenly the attack was launched in a flash. Swift was so silent and destructive that the leader was unable to respond before the ninja. The commander had been hit with precision, with each move intended to put an end to the battle before it had ever started. They had been outmatched from the beginning, and they were unaware of it until the leader's power was waning. The Galactic Empire, with all its might and technology, wasn't anything they had ever thought about before. Despite being invincible, the galaxy had forces they were unaware of, that were uncontrollable, or Earth was the planet they believed to be proof of that, and the ninjas were proof of that. The commanders had just demonstrated that Greece could defend itself in ways the Empire could never have envisioned. Their world's boundaries were blurred by vision, fading into darkness, yet they had not only the conflict, but their conviction in the greatness of the Empire. In their last moments discovered that even the Galactic Empire was unable to defeat these ancient ninjas. When a warrior from a supposedly primitive planet demonstrated to them that the ninja didn't linger, the objective was finished, and the assassin squad was suddenly silent, so there was no reason to worry. Earth was safe, at least temporarily. Once the ninja moved there was no need for celebration, just the same accuracy and quiet that had gotten them through the job. Acknowledgement that the operation was finished with the same communication effectiveness that characterized each of their actions as the ninjas disappeared, leaving no evidence behind. So the Galactic Empire would never be aware of what had actually. They would look for explanations and attempt to make sense of the loss of their elite if something happened on board their ship. The ninja was a warrior ghost, yet they would never be discovered by the assassin squad. Earth had sent its message from the shadows, and the Empire's technology was unable to detect it. Best and the Empire was never able to compete with the ninja, who demonstrated that sometimes the traditional methods were the most effective. No amount of technological progress could ever equal the might of a warrior who had perfected the art of the Galactic Empire. Had learned that lesson to be patient, stealthy, and precise. Although the ninjas had to complete their task the difficult way, the galaxy would never forget the message that Earth wasn't a planet that shouldn't be treated lightly, and its defenders weren't constrained by the laws that the rest of the galaxy ultimately followed. With the assassin squad, it wasn't about who was more powerful but rather who knew how to use it covertly. When the ninja were eliminated, they had no time to think back on their triumph. For such things, they moved in silence because the goal was finished, and that was sufficient. Navigating the ship's hallways without leaving any indication of their existence in the Galactic Empire for all of its might would never be able to comprehend what had transpired here. The ninja had certain that once people would not be aware of the specifics of what had happened on Earth. And there would be no grand pronouncements. They would not be able to hear of the silent struggle that had prevented them from being destroyed in the depths of space. The few Earth's leaders who were aware of the mission would exhale with relief, but even they wouldn't really. The ninjas didn't need or desire recognition because they understood the expertise and accuracy that had kept them safe. They had received training on discipline, focus, and the capacity to do a task without caring about the result. Victory wasn't a cause for celebration, rather, it was the outcome of being ready and learning how to stay unnoticed until the strike. The Galactic Empire would soon learn of their squad's demise, discover the dead and silent bodies, each one sent with surgical accuracy. But the ninjas would have long since left, leaving no traces or hints to. Consequently, it would perplex the Empire's leading strategists, leaving them in pursuit of an answer that would never. Empire had anticipated being able to quickly overthrow Earth's government and take control of the planet. But they had lost. No one could understand why. Despite all their technological advantages, their greatest assassins, the Empire's blind spot, was their inability to comprehend how an adversary, their elite squad, could overcome a planet that seemed primitive. Yet to them, everything could be analyzed and calculated, being managed by technology. But they had undervalued the abilities of people, the human factor, and experience that machines couldn't measure. Earth had been undervalued. And the ninja had demonstrated. They realized how risky that error was when the ninja returned to their secret extraction location. Of completion hung over them, and they no longer felt the need to hurry or feel a sense of urgency. Earth was safe, at least temporarily. When the task was completed, Yet in the silence of their ideas, the ninja were aware that the Galactic Empire wasn't one to let things end like way. Readily give up, they would reorganize, plan, and probably try again. Move on Earth. But that was unimportant today because the galaxy was so big, and the ninja had demonstrated that Earth was not helpless in the face of innumerable threats. Despite the overwhelming odds, some people were still able to fight back and protect the planet without. Knowing was more important than needing the newest technology or the strongest weaponry. Developing skills that had been handed down through the generations to strike without being seen wasn't something that was the outcome of millennia of skill development that the rest of the world could learn in a day. Galaxy had forgotten the Galactic Empire a long time ago, and their conceit had, though they had destroyed innumerable other planets, they thought they could destroy Earth just as quickly. However, they hadn't calculated on the ninja had not relied on the age-old wisdom that persisted in the shadows of Earth society. Empire's usually flawless record would probably see this as an exception or a fluke, but the reality was much more significantly, they were outperformed not by better technology, but by a significant margin. The ninja understood the Empire wouldn't stop thanks to the ingenuity of older and stronger humans. Earth will still be threatened in the future, but they were aware that Earth's defenders were prepared and concealed. Earth had its own, but the galaxy was unaware of it as they waited in the shadows for their next summons. Secret weapon, not machinery, not ships, but warriors who understood how to. Who could vanish into the night and eliminate a whole squad without being seen. When the ninjas returned to Earth, the world went on, as usual, with no fanfare and no heroes welcoming. The ninja role wasn't to be celebrated because they were not aware of the danger that had been avoided, but to defend without being noticed, to intervene when necessary, and so that life would continue with only a few individuals ever knowing that they were on the verge of being destroyed. But the ninja didn't require acknowledgement because the mission was finished, and that was the only thing that counted, and they would resume their lives in the darkness. Constantly ready for the subsequent voyage, the galaxy was large, and there were several dangers, but as long as there were people prepared to face the darkness, Earth would survive. Defend it, even though the Galactic Empire may not have fully understood the lesson they had learned. One warrior from a planet they had deemed unimportant outwitted them. It wasn't the strength of it, was the unseen, not the technology or the might of the military that had saved Earth. Because they could attack undetected, the ninja demonstrated that sometimes the worst dangers came from the shadowy areas you least expect, where nobody is looking. So, for the time being, the ninja work was finished, but they would always be prepared to Earth was safe because, although the galaxy was huge, the shadows were much bigger, and warriors like ninjas flourished there. Because its guards recognized that true strength came from having guards rather than having the most potent weaponry. The Galactic Empire had sent their best, and Earth had sent a ninja, since they knew when to fight and when to vanish. It was the outcome that did the talking.